breath in and exhale. One more and exhale. Okay, let's get started. Hello everybody, I am super stoked to have Yanni here today. Yanni is the founder and owner of Ihana Yoga. She is a teacher's teacher, a holistic health coach, and a passionate student of yoga and life. And she loves surfing as well, which I think is cool. Her mission is to raise the standards of yoga teaching, and that has taken her first through 4 different yoga teacher trainings and later outside the yoga scene, learning from health specialists, including an ongoing mentorship with Carl Montgomery, who is known for applied integrative medicine and a sports conditioning specialist who has coached hundreds of Olympic athletes. Yanni's past studies, she's got a Master in Science in Business Admin, equipped her with the appreciation of scientific research, I love that, that she now uses in yoga teaching and researching and writing and lecturing. Australian Yoga Life features her yoga articles, and she also presented at the recent Yoga Australia conference in Sydney. Yanni runs workshops and retreats internationally and lectures applied yoga anatomy in several teacher training programs in Australia and overseas. In her yoga teaching, she draws inspiration from everything that she's exposed to, including yoga styles such as Ashtanga, Vinyasa Yoga, Iyengar Yoga, Nuff Yoga, and Qigong-based calligraphy yoga. What is that? That's interesting. I've got to research that. And Jenni wants to bring yoga to the masses. Yes. And wishes to inspire by staying true to her own path. Awesome. This is why I contacted you and why I'm so stoked to have you here at our Professional Yogis interview series. Yanni, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about your journey from being a yoga studio and becoming a teacher and now an owner of 2 studios, which is, I think, is amazing.
Well, my background is in rhythmic gymnastics when I was a kid. So I did that for a long time and moved through different sports. So I've always been active, like track and field type of stuff and diving, and they always got competitive. Mm-hmm. So the coaches pushed me to competition, so I always quit. My background is in rhythmic gymnastics when I was a kid. So I did that for a long time and moved through different sports. So I've always been active, like track and field type of stuff and diving, and they always got competitive. Mm-hmm. So the coaches pushed me to competition, so I always quit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I didn't end up competing. And then I found yoga. And at first, like everyone, probably, I just saw it as another relaxing form of exercise. Mm-hmm. And I realized it's not competitive, and I realized I never need to quit anymore.
Ah, nice.
So I've stayed because it's something that is just for myself.
Yeah.
And that saw me through the business school. That was 5 years of studies doing the master's program.
Yeah. And
it was really calming, and I saw the that side of things, the mental benefits also. And it wasn't until 2004, 2005, I had a bit of a rough year in my personal life, and I felt quite low a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And that's when I started realizing, right, when I'm on the yoga mat, I feel alive, I feel good, I don't feel like crying.
Yes.
And then that's when it started, like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to share this type of feeling. And it's not just an exercise, but it's a way of living and to be happier.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So then my first teacher training was in India. So I traveled to Mysore.
Oh, wow.
That was already my second time in India. I'd already been there 3 months and knew I'd love the country. So I thought, why not go there again for another 3 months or so? And that was a really amazing internal journey. So that first teacher training was all about what is yoga, all the 8 limbs, meditation, pranayama, of course, asana, all the chanting and the spiritual side, sutras, etc., etc. And it was really just doing those 5 long sessions every day that got me into that kind of, wow, this is my practice and this is what it feels for me. And the appreciation that thousands have done it before me. And it's kind of like starting to follow a tradition that's proven, you know, to work for others. And I'm on that same path now. So it gave that kind of sense of homecoming and belonging.
Oh, yeah.
You obviously know what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
But then when I came back to Australia, I felt like I need some more substance, as in anatomy-wise. Mm-hmm. Because in India, when I asked any sort of alignment-based question, they just laughed at me and they said, oh, you Westerners, you're all the same.
Yeah.
It's not about the alignment, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And that's obviously one side of it.
Yeah.
But then the other side is, since we do asana, that is physical, and we work on the physical body, of course we have to understand the laws of nature, like what's actually happening when we do move the body. So that saw me through another teach training, and that was the Australian Yoga Academy teach training, where I've now been lecturing in that same program for the last 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely love it. And yeah, since then I've done a couple of more teach trainings, and one was this calligraphy yoga that you mentioned earlier, because all the other yoga is Indian hatha yoga.
Yeah.
But this is more like based on the Chinese qigong, which is really nice, and especially with my vinyasa flow teaching. Yeah. It's given me so much inspiration on how to move in a circular fashion, like rather than like forward and backward, and it's more of a, like there can be more of a flow from a normal pose down to another pose and so on. It's just linking poses. Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah. Linking normal poses in a different fashion, basically, but very inspiring.
It reminds me of Aikido, because where they move in a circular way as well. I've practiced that for a while.
I guess a lot of martial arts do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a natural way of moving, isn't it? Everything in nature is circular.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Makes completely sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then you.
So
keep on going. That is a very fascinating.
So when I basically came from India, even from the first yoga teach training, I started teaching straight away. Mm-hmm. I just jumped and like, this is it.
Yeah.
But then it grew from there really quickly, so that I was teaching full time in no time. Mm-hmm. And I was really lucky to find good studios and teach around Melbourne in different studios as much as I wanted to. Mm-hmm. So I've already been teaching for quite a few years full time.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. And that was my plan until something decided otherwise. Kind of like universe had plans for me.
Yeah.
I always thought I wouldn't run a business. I just want to teach yoga.
Yes.
And I had seen so many yoga studio owners, because it's so hard work.
Yeah.
That then they withdraw from teaching and they start running a business. And I just thought, no, I just want to teach yoga. This is what I love. Until it was just randomly started to become this internal pull. Mm-hmm. Like intuition telling me, no, this is the next step and I need to do it.
Yes.
And it just grew stronger and stronger. I mean, my intuition has always been so strong that even when I graduated from business school, started working as a financial analyst. Yeah. And then when I realized, this is not for me. I didn't panic. I just, this is not for me.
Yeah.
And I was able to listen to my intuition, just quit and do something that makes me happier.
Yeah.
Which was traveling at that time. Mm-hmm. So now that this kind of thing happened and I realized, okay, I want to continue teaching yoga, but now there's this pull of finding consistency. Yeah. Finding my tribe of like-minded people, so that there's one sacred space where all the teachers in that studio teach exactly the same way. Mm-hmm. And even though we all have our own ways of teaching and own sequencing, and everyone's creative in different ways, there's the same underlying pool of information that we draw inspiration from, as in a student wouldn't hear 2 different alignment cues for the same thing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So then that made my life easier in that sense, that I didn't need to battle against, why is this person doing this way?
Yeah.
Why am I maybe wanting to teach this way? And that basically grew from my anatomy studies. The more and more I studied, the more and more I realized that there needs to be a paradigm shift in the yoga industry. Absolutely. In general.
I agree.
To shift like from methods that were transferred from teacher to student, that teacher to student, just because it's always been done that way.
Yes. Yeah.
Like.
Totally agree.
So then I want to be a part of the evolution and actually create this modern yoga, because we have such different bodies than the natural Indian bodies were, or still maybe are, that we do need to focus on the anatomy, and we do need to maybe tweak the poses and that kind of stuff. And I find it fascinating. Yes. I really love it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And then so you created Ihana Yoga, and that started with one studio.
Yes.
And then now you've got 2 studios in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Running. Yeah. Fantastic. That is amazing.
I started the little yoga business with local workshops and retreats, and even overseas retreats. And then eventually it was like, okay, it is time to open the studio.
The brick and mortar. Yeah.
And I was thinking, right, what? Because obviously that kind of side of thing doesn't freak me out. My dad has always been an entrepreneur, so I've seen that it is hard work to run your own business, and even if not hard work, at least long hours. Yeah. So you do what you get out, what you put in. So then I knew I would have to register a business name, and I thought, what do I want to call my business? And I was just thinking out loud, and it was my husband, who's Australian.
Yeah.
And he said, you should call it Ihana. And
what does it mean?
Ihana is a Finnish word.
Oh.
And he said, you say it every day, so many times a day, that it's clearly your favorite word. And that's what yoga is for you, like something you love, so call it that. I don't even know what it means.
Nice.
But basically it means beautiful, lovely, amazing, awesome, fabulous.
Wow.
Just like a pool of positive words.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Me too.
It's something like I had to think about aloha. Like it's about love. It's like this word of love and connection and just something amazing. Oh, nice, Ihana. I love that. So now, and then you open your studio. So what were your because that sounds like a very organic growth, and you mentioned a few things that they were supporting your path into that, and that you always stood in your alignment while growing into this position where you're at now. But were there any challenges that you have to overcome in order to get out there, to put your sign up and to put your name out into the yoga community? You also taught at Wanderlust, you speak at Australian conferences. Is there anything that you had to overcome, or are you still working?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I'm probably still working on things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it's an ongoing journey, but I'm keen to do that because I see it as part of yoga.
Yes.
Like basically in yoga, you just want to go inwards, and whatever shit you find in there, get rid of.
Yes.
So all yoga teachers, probably all human beings, would have some sort of inbuilt, not necessarily innate, but whatever, obstacles within the conscious or subconscious mind. And if you have something like a business, something that really forces you to look in and into those obstacles, then you have to deal with them or you have to quit.
Yes. Yeah.
So because it's yoga, I wasn't, exactly. I'm still here, so I didn't quit.
You don't quit now.
And because it's yoga, I don't want to quit. Yeah. But it was like, right. So now it's about, running the studio and managing a staff of 10 people and getting this done. And like you said, putting myself out there. Yeah. I was always like happy to kind of stay in hiding.
Okay. Yeah.
So then that wasn't an option anymore. And I guess the big things that many people go through are, am I ready to teach? Mm-hmm. Am I good enough?
Yes.
And that kind of fear of what if I fail?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've gone through all those, and I bet there's still things to work on in some of those fields.
Yeah.
But the part of am I ready? That's never bothered me. I started teaching when I knew I wasn't ready. I just knew that I would learn yoga teaching by teaching yoga.
Yes. Yeah.
So I started, and you know, at a community hall, I actually started as soon as I came from India. Just a little reception that fit 6 mats.
Yeah.
So just like I didn't, you know, I just made the rent, but it was more like, wow, you guys showed up, and I get to practice with you guys. So it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's I'm lucky that this guy that you mentioned, the kinesiologist and sports conditioning specialist, Carl, he's been that kind of rock in my life.
Yeah.
And you know, with kinesiology, you can go quite deep. And if I find something that is an obvious obstacle, you can actually go and dig in. So it hasn't been just yoga, I have to admit.
Yeah.
Not just meditation that obviously keeps me calm every day.
Yeah.
But to go and like find triggers. Why would that thing annoy me or stress me?
Yeah.
And then kill that trigger.
Yeah. And I think you said something so really important, is that that you knew that you learn how to teach by teaching, and you can apply that to anything in life. Through this engagement into anything, you get the answers, you get the lessons, and you get the opportunity to improve. And also to having a mentor, I think that's something that we want to highlight with the professional yogis, to bring that back into the yoga teacher community, because many people go to their 200-hour teacher trainings in Bali and come back and there's nobody there anymore. And schools like yours offering mentorship, schools like you are there for, you know, teachers. And I think the best teachers are those who say, I'm a student. I'm humble enough to say I have so much to learn. And there's such a beautiful wealth of knowledge from people who've done and walked the path, to ask them and to connect to them. So I think that's a good thing to remember for all of us. So was there anything surprising for you from having first being a teacher and teaching at studios and then running your own studio? Anything that came up?
Maybe how, like, I was expecting a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize how much. Like, the days are longer than I thought they would be.
Yeah. So you teach as well, and you do the admin, and you.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the one thing I wanted to make sure of. I want to teach yoga, so that's what I do.
Yes.
So then I teach as much as I can, which is already teaching at other studios. I had learned what is my capacity, and you know,
what is your capacity? May I ask? Because we talked about that in earlier interviews, about some teachers teaching up to 24 lessons a week.
Yeah, it really depends on a week. I want to do 5-day weeks. Yeah. So I teach on 5 days, but then depending on how the lectures with other teach trainings land, sometimes, like this week, it's a 7-day week. But you know, who counts? So it really depends. Sometimes I get my weekend, that is Thursday and Friday, because I want to teach on the actual weekend, which is a really busy time and everyone wants to do their yoga. So basically I've planned my week so that I get between 2 to 3 group classes a day. Okay. And then I still often do minimum 1 private per day, but sometimes two privates a day. Wow. So it could be something like between 2 is the minimum, but up to 5 classes a day. Wow. With running a business now as well. Yeah. I lift my head, as we say in German. I don't know if you say that in English as well. Yeah, sometimes I wonder, like, how have I managed to stay alive? Like, it's a lot of stuff that I have on my plate. You look very radiant, you look very healthy, and you have a very beautiful energy. So you have a secret to prevent teacher burnout. I mean, everybody will hit the wall at some stage, and this is how we adjust. How do you think, what do you think about yoga teacher burnout? Have you seen it in other teachers? And it does exist, definitely. Yeah. Which is quite funny because I think the general public would think that yoga teaching is as relaxing as yoga.
Yeah.
Like all the yoga teachers must be really relaxed.
Yeah.
And I certainly hope it would be the case. But I do know of, you know, teachers who burn themselves out.
Yeah.
And it's often by overcommitting.
Mm.
So taking too many classes on. And I've heard from a lot of teachers that if they taught as much as I do, they would burn out.
Yes.
So it has to be individual. To me, it's easy to do 3 classes a day. Then it's if a couple of extra privates doesn't hurt me.
Yeah.
But I guess it's like if every day was a 7-day week, that would be too much.
Yeah.
So you have to find out what your capacity is, and then stick to it.
Yeah.
And I guess it's sometimes, especially when you're just starting and you get all sorts of new opportunities, and you think, well, I have to take this opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm now more than happy to say, no, my next available time is in October.
Yeah. Yes.
So then it's like it's starting to draw the line somewhere, and kind of like taking care of self-care.
Mm-hmm.
That I once was in Judith Hanson-Lassiter's workshop, and she's so cute, wonderful lady.
Yeah.
And she said she schedules in Shavasana or some sort of relaxation from her busy day.
Yeah.
And even if there's, let's say, this kind of interview, she would say, yes, but I have a very important meeting.
Yeah. Got my Shavasana.
We have to schedule it too. Yeah, exactly, Shavasana. So mine is definitely adequate sleep.
Yes.
3 walks with my dog.
Nice.
A day, and some form of yoga practice. I want a daily meditation in somehow.
Yeah.
And moving, of course.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to, when it's my day off, I come to our wonderful teachers' classes, or I might do, you know, play around by myself before I start teaching.
Yeah.
So, and you know, that's enough.
Yeah. Nice. Oh, it's beautiful. And it's nutrition as well. I saw you're a holistic health coach too.
Yeah.
So that's something that we have to take in consideration as well, isn't it? A good diet and...
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
I don't actually practice that at the moment. Like I'm more than busy with one-on-one yoga classes.
Yeah.
So I don't have at the moment one-on-one health counseling.
Yeah.
But in my own life, it's of course really important.
Yeah. Another question. You offer yoga teacher trainings. What do you think, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier as well, what do you think are the biggest challenges for the graduates that are going through a training and when they're embarking into their new yoga teaching career?
I think there's several types. And that depends on whether it's an entry-level teacher training, like, you know, the 200 hours or what we have in Australia, the 350.
Yeah.
Or whether it's some sort of a next level from that. And I guess the biggest thing is if it's an entry-level teacher training, am I ready to teach?
Yes.
Because everything happens really quickly. You're in a beautiful little bubble with your yoga teacher trainee friends.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you feel like you're, like you said earlier, all by yourself out there. And then what? Like, now I'm one of the yoga teachers who students maybe trust for advice and stuff. And a lot of people then have self-doubt.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is because back in Europe, I fly back every year, once or twice a year, to lecture in 2 different teacher trainings there. And even there's different levels, so that entry level 200 hours and then plus the 300. And I find it's different themes, whether it's the next level, post-grad, or whether it's the 200, as in if teachers have already been teaching for a while and they come back for further education and they learn something that they feel like, wow, this worked for me. This is what I want to share. However, it's controversial somehow. Like now I have to go back to my studio where I've been working for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I've learned this wonderful new thing. Like I have, the toolkit is bigger, and it's kind of like how to then step up.
Yes.
that's the next thing. To trust yourself enough that you can, like, you are the yoga teacher that can challenge other yoga teachers and challenge traditions, maybe.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, wow. I think that's wonderful that you pointed that out, because I love that you differentiated that. It's not just about being a yoga teacher who just starts out and gets, and it's a huge thing. I mean, getting out there and start teaching, that's huge by itself, but evolving as a yoga teacher and teaching in a community and evolving in your own style and being comfortable with that as well, to present that to your studios or to your students even, without having the fear of saying, okay, this is how I am changing now and this is what I learned. That's great.
That can be scary, but I've always been so, like, such a bookworm and you know, study geek, always been eager to learn. That when I go to, let's say, a new yoga teacher training or new retreat or wherever I've managed to learn new stuff, I always come back from those trips really inspired, and my students can see it. And then I say, you know, listen, guys, the cue that I've always
forget
said,
about that one.
Let's change that a bit. I'm always the first one to say that I'm happy to, you know, stuff the old ways.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I can't believe. I have to talk with you about it after our official interview, but I can't believe how many similarities we have. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, we're almost at the end. One more question that is burning for me is, what do you think can young students, young yoga teachers, let's say graduates again, what can these guys learn from senior teachers, and what can senior teachers learn from us or from younger teachers, from the new generation?
Yeah, tough question.
I know. You're the one to ask.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's first of all, like, that gap, like who is a senior teacher and who is not. But let's say someone who's been teaching for decades. I guess what they might learn from really fresh people or fresh yoga teachers who are new in the scene is not so much what's currently happening in yoga, but more like the beginner's mind. So if someone's been stuck in the habits for 10 years, then kind of like, let's question why you've been teaching the exact same way for 10 years. Why isn't anything evolving? Why has the evolution stopped? So maybe that kind of new, fresh blood always stirs the pot a little bit and might give new inspiration or enthusiasm, or at least that kind of, I like the word beginner's mind, because we all should keep that. And of course, you know, there's so much to learn from senior teachers. If whatever you might have in class or in a private student situation, if you ask a senior teacher, they've probably had that same situation. So then you can go on, hey, what did you do when something similar happened to you? And it's kind of like the experience that cannot be bought in a yoga teacher training, but you just have to do the hours and have to sweat all those hours on the mat and so on to gain that experience.
Fantastic.
And that's what they have, of course.
Yes. Oh, definitely. I found it interesting. I asked my teacher, Eve, who's been in the community now for 30 years and more, teaching yoga, and had her own business in Sydney and has been around for a long time. And I said, how did you embrace, for example, the new media, social media, because that's not how you built your community in Sydney 30 years ago. It wasn't there. And what do you think about it now? Is that, as a senior teacher, how do you look at that? And she said, well, we need to embrace that. As you said, we need to embrace changes, and we need to embrace and go with that and flow with that. That's what yoga is about, really. There's nothing to hold on to. It's how we reach more people, so why not? So it's I agree. With these 2 studios that we now have, the demographics are
somewhat different. Like we have some students going to both studios, but somewhat different. And the second studio that is in St. Kilda, which is where all the backpackers would go when they come to Melbourne, a very young area. When we started there, they said, "Oh, we'd love to follow you on social media, but hey, how old-fashioned is it that you're just on Facebook?" You have to be on Instagram. Didn't you know?
Yes,
like,
exactly.
I didn't, but I do now. So it was kind of like, I just got on Instagram because it was requested.
Yes, yeah. I love it. It tells how open-minded you are for your own learning as well. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Where can we find you in on social media and your websites? What are your details?
Yeah, so it's at Ihana Yoga, all attached. And same on Facebook, Ihana space yoga.
Okay. And anything coming up for you now in the nearest future? Any trainings?
Yes, so we will continue the postgraduate yoga teacher training next year as well.
Okay.
It's still ongoing this year, and it's been so amazing.
Yeah.
An amazing journey. And we have not just yoga teachers, but also yoga teachers who have other professions, like physiotherapists, lecturing in the training, and it's a big eye opener for many.
Yeah.
But it's live, so that even people from interstate can join us.
Fantastic! Wow,
yeah.
That's awesome. Wow. Okay, we'll check that out. Jenni, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We managed to do a half-an-hour interview, but it's super interesting. Thank you for sharing everything, and we'll stay in touch, guys. If you want to get in touch with Jenni, you find her online and in Melbourne, of course. So go and check her out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.